So, oh yeah, I'm in my kitchen for this one. It's a bit reading ahead, but I talked about it, I think, in the last couple ones. So, I don't know if that lighting's good. So, basically, it's cold outside. Because it's cold outside, that's going to change how exercise is going to look. So, cold has a strong effect on exercise physiology. Basically, at a certain point, the body stops functioning as it normally would in the cold. And so with exercise, that also has the effect on exercise because it makes the body less effective at doing it. Because once it's below that certain core temperature, the body has a progression of things that start to lead eventually to death. So the first one is non-shivering thermogenesis. This is when the heat production in the body and the metabolism speed up in response to cold. However, this does not include shivering, and it's the first step. The next step would be at a 2-degree drop, 2 degrees Celsius drop, it is maximal shivering. This is when the body's actually shaking. Oh, yeah, I actually have it here. 2 degrees drop is when the body's actually shivering, and before this point, the body's already feeling cold. The sensation of cold is already happening. So then 2 more degrees drop, so 4 degrees Celsius total. Ataxia and apathy. Ataxia is going to be, well, the combination of those is really just going to be general fatigue and lethargy in response to the cold. 2 more degree drop. This is from a core temperature of 35 degrees. So 6 degree drop. Yeah. Sorry. See, I did a cool down. I guess I didn't do enough of a cool down to be able to talk well. So 6 degree drop Celsius foot in total is going to be when the body actually starts shutting down and leads to unconsciousness. Sorry. And any further drop can start leading to death. And it's a slow death, actually, as the body tries to conserve body heat. One way it's doing that is shivering at that point stops, and the body is going direct blood flow to its most important part, so the torso and head, and it's going to actually stop. It's going to restrict blood flow to the extremities, especially the fingers and toes. That's where frostbite's going to occur because it needs all that leftover body heat to keep the main organs, the heart, the brain, alive. So, and that just kind of spreads from the outside in, where the heat is slowly lost and lost and lost, and the body starts breaking down because of the metabolic processes are stopping without blood flow. And like I said, that leads to frostbite. Frostbite can lead to damage. And in general, all of these things are not life threatening until you really get into the unconsciousness and ataxia, because most people can shiver and be fine. So, there are several factors that affect it. Sorry. Clothing, the individual, heat production, and environmental factors. So heat production is a really important one. That's why the body starts shivering. If it's going to use its stored energy, such as fat and glycogen, to start increasing thermogenesis to increase the body heat in response to cold, it can slow or prevent the body's core temperature from dropping. However, it is not perfect, and if the environment is too cold, these systems get either overtaxed or not effective enough at maintaining the temperature. Another important part is individual. Women and the elderly tend to lose heat faster and be less responsive to changes in heat. Women lose heat faster, elderly less responsive. And so because of that, they lose heat faster than men would, or specifically young men or young women. Children, however, are a bit special case because children are a lot smaller. They have less residual stores of glycogen and fat. they actually have a increased susceptibility to cold, to drops in core temperature. So another really important part is clothing, and whether the state of the clothing, whether it's wet or dry. Water is 25 times more heat, I believe the word's conductive, than air, so you lose heat 25 times faster by water on your skin than air on your skin, and that legitimately just sucks the heat out of you. Also clothing, this kind of includes, well, technically the individual also includes the leanness of the individual. More lean people tend to start shivering faster, and because they are more lean and have less fat, they have less natural insulation into them. Excuse me. And then that goes into clothing, which also acts as an insulation. Particularly if it's wet clothing, it's actually, excuse me, it actually is counterintuitive. And so when someone gets into these progressive stages of core body temperature dropping, it's recommended to remove any wet articles of clothing, because that's actually doing more harm than good. Part of that is actually sweating. So if the individual is exerting themselves and overheating, they can start to sweat. And so once that sweat starts to cool off, once it's outside of the body, it actually cools down the body faster, which is the purpose of the sweat, the general purpose of sweat. But because the sweat is water, and water is 25 times more heat conductive than air, it cools down the person much faster. So that goes into heat production. If there's too much heat production, the person starts sweating, it actually is a negative thing for them. Then finally we have environmental factors. So this is like, if it's wet outside, of course, like I said, water conducts heat faster. If it's wind chill, another major thing, because moving wind also saps away heat faster. Moving air saps away heat faster. And then if there's a greater gradient between the internal body temperature and the external body temperature, so let's say you would lose heat a lot faster if it was 0 degrees Celsius outside than if it was 10 degrees Celsius outside, simply because there's a greater disparity and you're going to lose that heat faster. And yeah, so there's a combination of these things really contributes to the amount of heat lost in the individual. That's important because, like I said, it's been really cold, and so I did not want to exercise in the cold, because I knew if I exercised in the cold, I would start to sweat to make me cold faster. And even though there's not that much of a risk, because it's not below freezing temperatures, it still would be very uncomfortable. I don't like exercising in the cold air, especially because I mentioned in a couple videos that it really messes up my throat, breathing in all that cold air.